My name is Gabriela Hernández and this video is for Pasantías Profesionales y Vinculación con la Comunidad 2. This is the lesson number 1, video number 1 for the second bimester. The topic of this class is gerunds and infinitives. In this class, students will learn about gerunds, infinitives, and how to use them in sentences and how to use gerunds as subjects. For starting the class, the teacher will tell students a story. It's a short paragraph of a person that works in a professional kitchen. In this short paragraph, we will find gerunds used as subjects in the sentences. This is the introductory part of the lesson. After the students listen to the short paragraph, the teacher will ask if they catch the main idea or some ideas. If the teacher didn't get any answer or good answers, she can retell the paragraph to students maybe one or twice more times. It is important in order to students develop their listening skills and also for get a good understanding of what we are doing in this activity. In the second part, we have the main teaching input. For the warm-up activity, the teacher will ask for opinions to students. They have to participate orally this time. It is freely. Any student can raise hand and participate. The questions are about how to cook eggs or potatoes. We are waiting here answers are as fried or boiled. This is in order to get into the topic of the last short paragraph that students listened at. Then they are going to get into the vocabulary of the lesson, which is about ways of cooking. After this activity, the teacher will show to students a presentation, which is a graphic organizer. The graphic organizer contains the form of gerunds. How to form gerunds. That is the base form of the verb plus ing. And there is some samples to illustrate these forms. Also, there are a short list about verbs that are always followed by gerunds, as avoid, consider, and also there is an example that explains this part of the presentation. This presentation should be read really carefully and maybe reread, and the teacher has to ask to students if they understand what we are setting in the presentation. Also, we have to compare the examples to what the presentation formula is telling to students. In the next part, the teacher will write. Using this time, we're going to use the whiteboard. The teacher will write some examples and also will write some of the sentences in the reading from the start of the class. In this part, students will participate and they are going to the front of the whiteboard and they are going to underline the gerund that is a subject in the sentence. In the samples, there will be gerunds as verbs, and students in this part of the class are going to identify when a gerund is indeed a subject. In the next part, students will look for another sentences. These sentences has infinitives, verbs followed by infinitives, and students again are going to pass to the front and they are going to underline the infinitives in order to understand the subject of the class. Well, after that, the students are going to use the notebooks because when going to the front of the class, not all the students can participate. In their notebooks, they are going to write the sentences that are written on the board, and then in each notebook they are going to do the same. They are going to underline the gerunds are verbs, and or the underline or maybe circle to in order to make a differentiation the infinitives in the sentences. We are going next to the modeling part of the class. In the modeling part, the teacher will write a chart on the whiteboard. In this chart, there are many samples. The chart we have gerunds as subjects, and the other part of the chart there is infinitives. And there we can find many samples that the teacher have to prepare in advance of course. And students will analyze together to the teacher. They are going to analyze each sample, comparing it to the presentation, and the presentation where we find the formula of gerunds, subjects, and the verbs followed by gerunds. And the students are going to analyze together the teacher in order to understand better the samples and the construction of the sentences uses this topic. In the next part, students have to work on their notebooks, and they are going to draw a similar chart, and then they are going to write their own samples, maybe one or two samples in each part of the chart. In the assessment part of the lessons, the students are going to be shown a couple of pictures, any picture, and they are going to imagine the situation that maybe is passing in the picture, and they are going to construct a sentence using gerund or infinitives, and they are going to tell to the class. For this part, the teacher maybe can expect for students raising hands, or students are going to be called by names, and they have to participate because this is an assessment part, and the teacher needs to make sure that students understood. And even this class is relatively easy, but it is necessary for that students get really well the topic. In the end of the class, the teacher are going to read again the samples on the whiteboard, the samples that she wrote, and maybe she can add another sample that she listened from students that she can add into the chart, and students will read together the teacher, and they are going to analyze. Maybe we can find another mistakes in this part, and the students can freely participate. This is important, that in the whole class students have the opportunity to participate, and because the teacher in this part, as the teacher has the opportunity to correct mistakes and pronunciation and grammar mistakes, so this is a collaborative work in the class. And of course, as homework, students are going to be asked to write another sentences, maybe in a chart as in the class, or a list of samples using the topic of the class. The students has to read 5 sentences on each topic, and if they can, or if they want, they can draw a scenario where they get the sentences for the homework. And this is all in the class about gerunds and infinitives in the sentence.